Thanks, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm not giving a research talk. Instead, I'm here with my BBSRC hat on to tell you a little bit about how the government funds research in the UK and that journey from research to innovation to application and how we're trying to do that better, I think, here in the UK. So, I'm a geneticist and genome biologist on a Friday. So it's, and last Friday I was giving a talk on genome biology up in Birmingham, and that was great fun. But today, what I want to do is to really cover three things. First of all, as we're thinking about the biorevolution, what do we mean by that, and why is it important? And during the course of that, I'll just say give a bit of background to UKRI and BBSRC as funders. We think a lot about what's needed to accelerate the biorevolution, and particularly within BBSRC, how we're supporting this and what more can be done. And we're always interested to hear from a range of stakeholders, young people, people from industry, people from different sectors, people from a range of contexts, exchanging ideas and sharing their perspectives of how we can do this better. And then finally, I want to emphasize the importance of people and the opportunities for support for early career researchers, skills development, the development of talent, and the bringing in of expertise and diversity from other sectors and the value that that has for the kind of direction of travel where we want to go. I was actually also asked to talk about my career. I know some of you were at a career development thing I talked about a month or so ago. I'm not going to do a lot about that today. I will have a slide to say a little bit about what's shaped my thinking personally as I've been on this kind of bizarre journey. But that's only one slide. So, UKRI. So we are the largest public funder of research and innovation in the UK. We take taxpayers' money and we work with government to invest it in brilliant science. And we're one of 9 research councils. There are 7 disciplinary research councils plus Innovate UK and Research England. Research England does a lot with the higher education sector, disseminating the dual support system, for example. And Innovate is that bridge between fundamental research and commercialization. The key thing to say here is that, in fact, one of, I think, the legacies of the CEO, Ottoline Leiter, who just stepped down recently, is the bringing in of a set of executive chairs. I've been in post for just over a year, who are really working together to do what UKRI was built to do, which is to recognize that some of the most exciting developments sit at the interface of disciplines. And we need to be working together as research councils more to enable the highest, most exciting and highest impact work. So we're part of a system working with academia, with business, with the public sector, with the third sector, and importantly with our international partners to create knowledge with impact. And very recently, less than a month ago, we welcomed a new Chief Executive Officer, Sir Ian Chapman, who will lead UKRI. Ian is a physicist. He was previously the Chief Executive of the UK Atomic Energy Authority, and it's very, very clear that he's highly committed to a very outcome-focused approach to our role within the UK research and innovation ecosystem. And he's really facilitating and enabling that much closer cross-council interaction that we really are needing going forward. He inherited a vision, a UKRI strategy, which was called Transforming Tomorrow Together. And it was our goal was really to create a research and innovation system in the UK where a diversity of people and ideas can thrive. This is only the 3rd chief executive of UKRI, and each chief executive has been in for around 5 years and carries UKRI on the next leg of this journey. So handing over to Ian means that we're building on that really rich legacy that Ottoline has left around, actually a cultural legacy around increasing diversity, connectivity, resilience, and engagement, and taking it to that next level. And actually, in this context, we think about the research and innovation sector system going forward, and our contribution in a slightly more holistic way with an investment portfolio that supports the system and to deliver multiple benefits locally, nationally, and globally. And we think of it actually at the moment as three buckets. This is how actually the Minister for Science, Patrick Vallance, thinks about it. And we're very aligned with that, actually. We're actually blessed to have a Minister for Science who absolutely knows about science and innovation in a and is sitting in a political context because he absolutely champions this issue around new discoveries from excellent curiosity-led research. This will always be a really, really important priority sitting at the heart of what we do. And that curiosity-driven research to advance knowledge feeds effectively into the second bucket, which is about the formation and success of innovative companies. And that, of course, leads to bucket 3, which is our overview around delivering better outcomes for society, both nationally and globally. And at the core of this is our investment in people, in infrastructure, and in the critical technologies that we've already heard a bit about already. Of course, this is very much aligned with government ambitions, at the core of this is the government's new industrial strategy, which is a 10-year plan to promote business investment and growth nationally. This focuses on 8 sectors that have the greatest growth potential over the next decade and have a critical role to play in supporting economic security and resilience, net zero and regional growth, and of course the things that we care about the most. And the wonderful thing about bioscience is that it touches, it underpins, it permeates through a large number of these industrial sectors. So when you think about life sciences, you think about medical research, but actually underpinning that medical research, that understanding of disease, is the fundamental research in cell biology, in bioscience and health, that contributes to the way we build our health and disease, our responses to health and disease nationally. So in particular, at BBSRC, we have a strand within advanced manufacturing. We have a strand within clean energy industries. Engineering biology, which I'll come to in a minute, absolutely is embedded in digital and technologies and is recognized by government as a really important direction of travel. Of course, life sciences, I'll come to that in a minute. And we're even interacting in the creative industries, and biosecurity and defense is becoming more and more of a topic. So the biorevolution, what does this really mean? We've been hearing a lot about health actually in this GapSummit already, but in fact the biorevolution extends a lot further than that. Biosciences and biotechnology touches a larger plethora of global challenges that we face, challenges around climate change, pandemic preparedness, food and nutrition security, and of course healthy aging. So the 21st century has really been quoted by some as the age of biology, with the biggest innovations predicted to be at the intersection of biology and technology. And these are underpinned by advances in genomics, nucleic acid biology, in precision editing, etc., revolutionizing the speed at which we can generate and analyze huge volumes of biological data. So this summer, BBSRC harnessed its interactions with our stakeholders, both within the sector and more widely, to really develop a vision, a 10-year vision, what is our forward look? And we focus really in BBSRC on three key areas: sustainable agriculture and food systems, healthy people, animals, and plants. That connectivity between healthy animals, plants, and people is extremely important. And a resilient bioeconomy in which our environment and ecosystems are enhanced rather than degraded by human activity and reliance on fossil fuels, and biosolutions can be contributing to that, enabling our economy actually to grow in innovative yet sustainable ways, while also recognizing the global responsibility that we have to our environment and the planet. So harnessing that power of bioscience, within that we are creating and deploying transformative technologies around data, AI, and Eng Bio. Applying innovations to deliver real-world change. This is about focusing our bioscience on those key challenges facing the world, bringing bioscience to offer solutions to climate change, infectious diseases, and aging populations. And importantly, catalyzing discovery, that curiosity-driven research without which we actually can't. We have nothing to translate, nothing to apply, and no way to make a difference. This is enabled through our investment in infrastructure, our investment in people, and our enabling and facilitating these routes to impact. The panel touched on this quite a lot earlier on. We don't want to do this on our own. We can't. We must work in partnership with others to deliver this real world change. And for me, that's about co-creation. That's about the enhancement of connectivity and the commitment to the highest quality outcomes and outputs at the core of those partnerships. Really generating the highest quality data that can feed into the highest quality AI-associated, AI-enabled understanding of data and directions of travel. So I wanted to use engineering biology to really, as an example of the way we are designing and constructing biological systems to solve real-world challenges, because this encompasses the entire innovation ecosystem, from breakthrough synthetic biology research to translation, commercialization, and application. And for me, it's been a really impressive, since I've come into BBSRC and understood the history of how it was born and how it grew. It's now, I think, the best example of cross-council collaborative working, where that real added value from working across disciplines is coming together, and I'll show you how that works. But a bit of history first. So really, the major UKRI investments began with the Synthetic Biology for Growth program, launched in 2014, which really established UK as a global leader in synthetic biology through foundational research, through investment in infrastructure, through training and industrial collaboration. And it was driven by government investment when synthetic biology was one of 8 great technologies, actually. And I'm not going to go into the details of what it supported, but we built DNA foundries, synthetic biology research centers, centers for doctoral training, etc., and other research councils such as EPSRC, the Engineering Physical Sciences, Innovate, etc., came in and engaged with us on that. So thereafter, this transformational program was really considered very important for unlocking the potential for unlocking the economic potential of synthetic biology was recognized, and considerable additional and the recognition that it was had the potential to really increase economic growth, increase collaborations, build sort of ecosystems where early stage companies could be supported and could grow, and where we could bring in new skills and talent. The National Engineering Biology Program was born shortly thereafter in 2020, recognizing the rapid evolution of the technology. So we moved from synthetic biology to engineering biology. And this is basically an overview of what this national program looks like. And it's a really coherent program, and it's really working. It's inspired by 4 application-driven themes: engineering biology for food systems, engineering biology for biomedicine, engineering biology for clean growth, and engineering biology for environmental solutions. These are the 4 pillars. And then there are cross-cutting themes: bio-inspired design, bioengineered cells and systems, novel materials. So going into material sciences, areas where molecular biologists might not originally have been exploring, but recognizing that there are the real opportunities of a program like this to move people into new areas, into new disciplines, and recognize that some of what they're doing has wider implications. And perhaps we'll come back to that. We also touched on that in the panel. Cross-cutting research and technologies, and of course these underpinning enablers that are required to create an entrepreneurial environment and to bring in talent and skills, increase connectivity, really emphasize knowledge exchange and commercialization, and also recognizing the need for investment in infrastructure. So then in a couple of years ago, the Technology Mission Fund from government put a considerable amount of additional money into this, and focusing on the world leading, recognizing engineering biology as one of the technologies of tomorrow, alongside AI, quantum, AI and quantum. And actually, these are the main components of the digital and technologies aspect of the industrial strategy sector. So the purpose really is to further develop collaborations between industry and academia and drive science towards better towards application and commercialization through expansion into mission hubs and mission awards. So that's recognizing across the whole country, placing centers of excellence that can reach out and connect more widely, recognizing local innovation partnerships and their role in that, and supporting proof of concept funding, and driving business-led projects. The mission hubs that which are the network of 6 long-term investments, that's 70 million over 5 years, they get. They are this is the kind of things that they're doing, and you can see that they touch those four pillars that I talked about, ranging from transforming new methods for vaccines, diagnostics, and therapeutics, to developing biologically driven solutions for metal processing within a circular economy. These are biosolutions. And of course, a lot around the improving effectiveness and safety of gene therapy, and a lot of precision-based genetics in the context of particularly agriculture and food. But of course, we actually need to be investing more in people. And we have skills, and we're investing in more skills and training programs, and a new set of doctoral focal awards in engineering biology will be announced shortly. I think there are going to be about 5 new ones of those, and global partnerships reaching out to and having international collaborations in this space. But of course, we still need to be harnessing that full potential. Key to this is very much around data sharing, actually. Again, we've had a lot of discussion about that already this morning, but really having data, high quality data generated on platforms and in ways in which data can be shared, data can be integrated, data from one context can be applied to another. These are really important challenges that happen if we can connect better across disciplines and across communities and across sectors. We need to build on our established partnerships and collaborations And we actually need to work very closely with government on policy and regulation. And we've seen some of the challenges of that going forward. Further challenges, barriers to scale up. We can talk about that all day, and regulatory processes. And it's been great that the Precision Breeding Act came in 2023 that allows us to edit genomes, particularly in the plant and crop sciences space. This is very important for our agritech direction of travel, and if we're serious about global food security, we can really build on the excellent research that we've been doing over the years, and that BBSRC and UKRI have been supporting to take that further. The other thing that we are excited about within BBSRC is the role of bioinnovation clusters across the UK. Now, BBSRC has 8 institutes, theme-oriented institutes around the country, and they're embedded in 5 innovation campuses. And that means you have fundamental discovery research, small companies, growing companies, shared infrastructures, cross-sector partnerships happening within the same campus. And the UK has done well in the way it's been investing in these innovation campuses. In particular, I'll just use one example. This is the Norwich Research Park, which focuses on healthy plants, healthy people, healthy planet. There's 3, BBSRC have 3 institutes there, one called Earlham around genomes and big data, the Quadram Institute, which is a food sciences research institute, which is leading the way in microbiome research. And then the John Innes Centre, actually our world-leading flagship plant sciences institute, best in the world, doing fundamental research into plant sciences, both in terms of how crop sciences can be more effectively, crops can be more effectively grown, but also how that feeds into the food system. And actually, one of the really exciting aspects of this now is the way we're seeing these different institutes building a single strategic vision that connects plants and food and health in an innovation context where there are opportunities and engagement with the National Health Service, with the higher education sector, and with companies, growing companies. So that end-to-end connectivity across the ecosystem is really important if we're to deliver the effective kind of change that we're looking for. And central to that actually is our strategic partnerships with the other research councils, and especially with Innovate UK, where we have considerable joint investments in low emission food production systems, sustainable biomanufacturing, national innovation around the development of alternative proteins, etc. So these business and academia partnerships and collaborative R&D endeavors really are very important and will grow. What is working very well are these prosperity partnerships across bioscience and biotech, where we have government investment matched by investment from business and other partners. And that public-private partnership is really important so that we can co-create and align our shared endeavors in efficient and effective ways. And finally, people really sit at the heart of this research and innovation system. We will continue in BBSRC and within UKRI, indeed, to develop, retain, and mobilize the diverse skills needed in the modern and future bioscience workforce. That involves training, getting more young people into the critical technologies, upskilling and reskilling those who aren't and who want to into those areas. Recognizing that the traditional pathways that we've taken in our careers in research and innovation, particularly through academia, are perhaps a bit no longer fit for purpose. We actually need to be creating more diverse, more porous career pathways where there's more permeability and more movement, and people aren't afraid to do something different, to take a different route. And that's being, we're really across UKRI as we work in our collective talent portfolio, driving that forward, particularly as we think about spending review allocations and the importance of skills development within that. I'm going to digress a little bit because I was asked to say a little bit about my journey. So this is slightly lighter. Science, strategy, choices, life. I'm old, so I think of my research career as divided into a set of decades. In the 80s, I did my PhD. I did it in the United States. Those were extremely formative years for me. I grew up in Glasgow. I was an undergraduate in Glasgow. First time I left home was to move across the Atlantic and live on the east coast of the United States. I call those my rock and roll years, and I'm happy to discuss that over a drink later. And then I came back to, I'm a US citizen, actually. I was born, you can tell by my accent, of course. I was born actually in the United States. I have dual citizenship. So I had an NIH fellowship to do my PhD in the States. And it was a really, as I say, extremely formative. Then I came back and did a postdoc in Cambridge. And at that point, I had a couple of kids. So I call those my wheels on the bus go round and round years. Because and then in the noughties, I felt that my career was becoming more established, and a lot of that was about. It was interesting because I mean, at that point in my career, I started to feel kind of underappreciated. It was like, well, you know, what was I doing? Where was I going? And I actually took an adjunct position in Singapore actually to see if the grass was greener on the other side. Actually, it wasn't, but I learned a huge amount, and my love of Southeast Asia has continued. And I actually am very close to the research strategy and directions of travel within Singapore. I'm going out there in a week or so. So and actually up until then, no, and then I became head of Department of Genetics, which was actually the best job I've ever had. It was absolutely fantastic, shaping it was happening at a time when genetics and genomics as a discipline was really evolving in interesting ways. In some places, genetics had become genomics, but actually here in Cambridge, they realized that the discipline of genetics was really important. The study of inheritance, you need to do something with those genomes, and it's about understanding inheritance and teaching our students about genetics. So I think we might be one of the only genetics departments left in the UK. But it's fantastic and it's doing very well, and I was very happy there, and I did lots of yoga. And those up until then, I'd never really had a real job. My life and my work were all sort of aligned, and everything was cool. And then I took on a senior leadership role within the university, the Pro-Vice Chancellorship of Research and Innovation here at Cambridge, which was very interesting. I learned a huge amount, particularly around the challenges that face a complex organization and the challenges that other universities within the higher education sector are facing. Cambridge is very blessed, actually. And it was clear to me also that actually I wanted to be a public servant. I wasn't actually that interested in championing a single institution, as wonderful and as privileged as that was for me. And I had always had a passion for UKRI, and when the BBSRC job came up, I wanted it. And so this has been a very exciting experience, you know, bringing that background in, that interesting journey of genetics to genomics and into the life and into the life sciences. I did a lot of other things along the way. I've done a lot of work with research councils and funders, and sat on various international boards, which has enabled me to appreciate what we have in the UK, actually. So I call those where I am now are the walking the dogs years. My kids are grown up, and I walk a lot. I go out and I walk and I think, and I talk to people actually on those dog walks, which are, so anybody who wants to come on a dog walk with me is most welcome. The other key thing for me has been to be outward facing. Quite easy in academia to get sucked into your own little world. And as we heard this morning on the panel, you know, we have to be out there. We have to be connecting. We have to be defragmenting the activities that are going on. And to do that, we need to go out there and understand what's happening elsewhere in the world. I grew up in Glasgow, I was in Scotland, went to the United States, came back to Cambridge, did a ton of work around the EU epigenome networks of excellence, which were absolutely phenomenal and have really inspired the way I think about how we can work strategically, both nationally and internationally. We are a tiny country. We should be doing things in a much more interconnected way. And then my lab in Singapore, that was really, really fascinating. Learning, that was where, it was in my mid-career, and that was where I learned I was interested in shaping research strategy. So a few things that I think about and that have kept me sort of going, that I think apply regardless of whether you're in academic research or in industry or in whatever you're thinking, whatever direction of travel. Always be a student. I'm a student. I'm always learning new things. My mind is open. I want people to engage, teach me, and I have a lot to learn from others, even though I'm old. Forward planning is quite useful. Think ahead. Take that time and that enables you to be able to, of course, sometimes you don't have the luxury to do that, but where you can, really think deeply about what your head and your heart and your gut is telling you about the right thing for you, and get out and about, meet people, learn from them, exchange ideas. The other thing that's important is don't be afraid to take risks or to take a different route or to come from a different route and go somewhere else. I don't want to say there are no rules, because actually there are some rules, especially when you start working for government. But actually you can do anything you set your mind to, and think about creative ways to make that happen. Sometimes you might try things and they might not work. That's okay. I've failed a lot. I've made tons of mistakes. And I've learned more from the mistakes that I've made than from my successes. But know when to stop flogging a dead horse. Stop. If it's not working, stop. You're only as good as the people around you, so value them. And this is the sort of public service aspect. I've got a research component of my brain, but I've got this other itch that needs to be scratched, which is about, if you see something you don't like, you can sit and bitch and moan about it in your office, or you can go out there and try and make it better. So don't be afraid to do that. That's all I want to say about my journey. I'm going to close with a few final reflections, really picking up on three things around accelerating the biorevolution. The importance of discovery. We will always in the UK be investing in discovery. If you developing new ideas, new concepts that can be having real world benefits, that have the potential to improve lives and livelihoods. We may not know when that might happen. Could be 10, 20, 30 years. But they have those nuggets, those gems have to be there. Bridging divides, the panel talked about this in the end too. Connectivity and co-creation are essential to harness the power of bioscience, working better in true partnerships, to have a clear pathway from discovery to innovation, such that people who want to come in at any stage of that pathway can see the routes in. We need to do that better. We need to bring communities, expertise, sectors together more closely. BBSRC, we're doing this in a very theme-oriented kind of way, both within BBSRC and actually also across UKRI. And people, it's very different from when I started out. There's an increased flexibility in the choices, the opportunities for the development of skills for early career researchers, and indeed for later career researchers, and indeed for going out, trying stuff, changing your direction of travel and doing something else. Young people are much, much better at doing this than we were when I was young. And so this creates the most remarkable landscape and ecosystem for possibility. And so I'm very optimistic, actually, about the direction of travel. I'll stop there and thank you for your attention.
questions for this year?
Hi, thank you for taking the time to be here with us. My name is Caroline. I'm from Brazil, and today I work in a venture branch of a beauty company. But before that, I used to work in a company in a metabolic engineering lab. And it was really difficult to bring the science of new bioproducts into the market, even being in a company. And also in Brazil, it's really complicated to see new startups working with synthetic biology. So I would like to know, what are you doing exactly to translate the science into the market?
Yeah. So I think that the key, first of all, one needs to be on top of what's happening in the ecosystem, and as funders, channel and enable appropriate funding at the appropriate level in the right place. It's very much, I think, about top down meeting bottom up in an effective way. So so in my view, there's not one way to address that challenge. And here, I mean, certainly here in the UK, we're seeing things like local innovation partnership funds that are showing up within regions where um, investment in local companies uh, and the creation of networks, let's call them innovation partnerships, um, are coming together such that people can see the channels through which so you need money, the right investment in the right place. You need to have channels where people can see how they can do this, and you need to have an infrastructure, an ecosystem, accelerators, innovation campuses in order to make that journey happen. So I don't think there's one answer. I think there's lots of things that we can do, that different stakeholders who have responsibility in this area can do. It basically a lot of it comes down to effective public-private partnership and the local innovation activities, local, regional, and national actually innovation activities that we're beginning to see springing up, certainly around the UK, more than ever before. I mean, Cambridge Innovation is fantastic, and it's Innovate Cambridge. It integrates the widest stakeholders across multiple sectors. I mean, I can open the floor to others in the room who I mean, we've had this conversation also a bit in the panel earlier. There's others in the room who will have views on this too. But certainly, the role of government funding is enabling, and that connectivity between the research councils and Innovate UK is absolutely at the heart of this. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a lot of work. You really need to keep your eye on the ball. Yeah.
And thank you for the great insights. You gave an example of the how the public, private, and government like to work in harmony, and it can lead to like to the perfect picture. How do you think the basic science looks in this picture? Who doesn't have a like the short term product, but will be beneficial into the long term?
I think it looks good actually at the moment in the UK. I think that we have excellent research labs in our across our academic landscape. We have actually 60 what we call national capabilities. These are institutes or institute-like entities, including actually Innovate Catapults, which harness a lot of that basic research. And so, of course, we can do better. But really, certainly in the UK, we have a deep-rooted depth of high-quality, curiosity-driven research that is investigator-led, and a recognition that it would be arrogant for top-down to govern for the highest levels to say this is what you ought to be doing, knowing full well that in fact most of the most innovative discoveries come are surprises, are completely unexpected, and come from research activities that were designed to do something else.
Thank you. So I'm currently working on a consulting project on sustainability in research in the Heidelberg Life Science Cluster. And what we've learned from the researchers is that one of the key things that they incentivizes them is from grants or funding agencies to also require sustainability in research. So my question is, in the UK, how much emphasis do you put on sustainability in research, and also how do you incorporate that into your funding pipelines?
You mean environmental sustainability in the way in which we do research?
So yeah,
Or-
particularly for for biomedical sciences, like for example, just using minus 70
Yeah.
versus minus 80 degrees,
Yeah.
and also like one bottle of FBS costs like one cow. So like these things are not emphasized as much, and so slowly sustainability in research is being brought up. So I was wondering how much of that is emphasized
Yes.
in your agency.
So, in fact, we had a meeting within UKRI about this last week, and there's a paper coming to our executive to discuss the direction of travel. There are a lot of areas where sustainability is relevant. Sustainability within research, sustainability in how we interact with others in our global partnerships, and sustainability in our estate. Some of that is outside the responsibility of UKRI because it sits within the higher education sector. And when I was the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research and International Partnerships here, we talked about this a lot. How do we have a more sustainable estate? So I think that, I mean, I'll make this short, actually. We need to do more. We need to increase awareness. Certainly within departments and within most universities, there is an increasing awareness about the use of plastics, the recycling of equipment, the turning down of instruments, minus 80 freezers to minus 70, which makes a huge difference. You know, little things, but actually it has to be part of our vocabulary and, you know, a lobe of our brain in ways that it hasn't been before. And that means that everybody has to take some responsibility and have a voice in this. You need to talk about it. I need to talk about it. Everybody in this room needs to be thinking about ways that we can do this in a more sustainable way. So we're not there yet, and we won't be, and it's going to be very expensive.
And thank you so much for the talk, and really thank you for you and the UKRI to champion the term engineering biology. I've been seeing the reports, and it's great. I'm Ivan Jover, Director of Entrepreneurship at SynBioBeta, so I oversee the startup ecosystem for synthetic biology. And lately, I've seen that I've noticed that there's been a more challenging time for planetary health companies, startups in the chemicals and materials space, food tech. Many times it's because these startups are developing products that aim to replace another alternative in the market in commoditized supply chains, and the prices are very competitive. So when you compare that to a human health application, you're developing like a pharmaceutical drug, there's just much more value into those molecules. So in the planetary health, it's much more competitive. You're absorbing the cost of R&D, biomanufacturing, go to market. And then on top of that, I read in the World Economic Forum report, moving the moving the bioeconomy forward, that, for example, oil and gas, they still have like 5 subsidies per each bio solution. So it's not a fair game to play. Any ideas or initiatives that are trying to level the game field for planetary health applications?
I mean, there's a lot in what you've said there, and just unpacking it a bit. One of the key things that comes out of that is that the different sectors, the different disciplinary areas, have different tensions around those kinds of challenges. For example, in the agri-tech space, We invest a lot in precision editing to generate plants that don't have the same reliance on chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides that they have in the past. Yet the seed companies are the companies that are also selling those chemicals. What one needs, I think, is a cultural change and a proper costing model to enable this to change the landscape here. I think those cultural changes in landscape and ecosystem evolutions are different for different sectors. It's not the same in pharma. Actually, they have other interesting challenges. So I think this is where government has a very important role to play, and we as funders need to be providing the highest quality data and evidence that our researchers can provide in order to help the right decisions be made. But you're absolutely right. It's a real challenge. Yeah.
Hi, I'm here. I'm Sophia, PhD student based between Cambridge and the University of Bath. And my question was more about, is UKRI or divisions within also looking at partnering with EU-based institution? I'm sure Brexit kind of hindered that, but is that going to get better? Is there focus on that?
Since we reassociated, it's going really well with an increased, almost back to normal. In fact, it is back to normal of the applications from UK into EU funding programs, particularly ERC. And in fact, I'm going to sit on an ERC panel in a couple of weeks. I think the way they disseminate their funding is a great example, and I want to learn from it. And that's why I'm sitting on one of their panels. I haven't sat on one of their panels before. But we're also, of course, strategically interacting very closely with EU. And the answer is yes. I think the relationship is a healthy one. It's as healthy as as it can be when you've got multiple countries trying to navigate interests. But the priorities that we have are shared across. Actually, we all share the same priorities. I sit on the NRF's in Singapore, their funding board, and our priorities are all the same. We're all trying to do the same research, the same kinds of research. We have the same goals. We think the same things are important. We can be doing much more together. It's not just within Europe, but more widely.
Thank you very much for your crystal clear presentation. My question was about how does this strategy prolong from lab to fab? I mean that often in Europe, every European country has its own strategy to incentivize researchers, but usually those spin-offs and SME encounter some kind of a valley of death after clinicals when they have to go into the market and they go into real economy to provide new manufacturing capacity and new jobs, which often justify the political support for those kind of strategy. So what is your vision on how we should tackle this issue?
Well, we need to have a national vision, and it needs to be led by government. And we have a very important, in partnership with the private sector, and we need to be doing much better at engaging and creating opportunities for investors to see the opportunities that we have and invest in our country. I think we can be doing a lot more to showcase and bring in investors. Of course, there's the role of government in releasing funds in these kinds of contexts is very important, and the UK is, I would say, on a journey, and we've had a tough couple of weeks because we have a geopolitical landscape that is changing all the time. So I think this is a very, very important question. I think it's a priority going forward in the UK, and let's hope that we can get there with the kind of wake up calls that are happening all around us.
So last question, please.
Thank you very much for your talk. I am Andrea from Ecuador, and I work as an accreditation analyst at a university. And I'm really interested about how to establish strong partnerships between institutions. In your experience, what are the best practices to do that?
Yeah, I really love that question because, in fact, I think that historically we've set up, we've put structures in place that don't incentivize cooperation. Look at the Research Excellence Framework, which is about competition between institutions. We should be doing more collaboration. We should be incentivizing how we encourage people to come together and to do things together and to get that added value from from working together and bringing different diverse expertise, cross-disciplinary expertise, cross-sector interactions, and that added value. From a funder perspective, we can do that by how we assess, thinking about how we encourage risk taking. It's, if you're assessing an institute and they're scared to tell you that they've tried something and it hasn't worked, then I think you're not functioning effectively as a funder, actually. And so there's all kinds of little things that we can do to change that culture, to bring people to work together, but we can also enable, convene and broker the kinds of bringing the right people into the room. And it depends on what your outcomes are, what you're trying to achieve, how you do that, and what kind of people you bring into the room. But I've seen fantastic examples of incentivizing actually investment by bringing the right people into the room and exciting not only about what has been done already, but the potential. We don't talk enough about the potential, about the really exciting possibilities that are just on the horizon. It's about planning ahead, Everything's very much about now. This is not, even though often the political landscape makes it difficult for us to do that. We are in this for the long haul. We need to get this right. We need to put things in place that are sustainable, that are lasting, that are effective, that are efficient, that add value, that have a culture that brings people together to work together in more effective ways. That's good leadership, I'd say.
Thank you so much, Prof. Anne, for an amazing and inspiring talk.